there, fam. It's me, Mecha-May, the little robot girl. And today, me and my engineer, Mew-Bot 5000, are going to talk about one of the lesser lights of the 1980s Japanese robot boom called Aoki Ryusei SPT Layzner, otherwise known as either Blue Comet SPT Layzner or Blue Meteor SPT Layzner, depending on which side of the Mississippi you grew up on. Now, this isn't a cartoon about a laser made by the motor oil company STP written and produced by dyslexics. It's the story of a blue-haired boy, a side ponytailed girl, and a group of progressively silly bad guys. This show was made by Nippon Sunrise in 1985 and ran for 38 episodes, which you would think would be plenty of time to tell a good story about giant robots fighting in space. And it is. Unfortunately, this series has appallingly weird pacing. It's a snail-paced slog in some places and confusingly rushed in others. The ending was disappointing because the show got canceled early, thanks to a faulty kerosene heater made by the show's sponsor. Luckily, an original video anime was made to retell the final arc of the series in a more coherent fashion. Ah, how delicate, how fragile is the sponsored television show, so easily crushed by a careless household appliance manufacturer. What's that, Mew-Bot? What's it about? Well, its overarching theme is what happens when a planet is taken over by a foreign governing body, how its inhabitants survive the occupation and ultimately triumph over their oppressors by pretending to be a nun and putting a souvenir coin from the Nazca lines into a big cylinder in outer space. But seriously, folks. It starts off with a bunch of overachieving teens landing on Mars for a field trip to the United Nations Mars base, because the UN has a base on Mars. Why wouldn't they? Someone's got to get between the US and Russian military bases that are there, I guess. The series follows the teens and is narrated by the youngest one, the side ponytailed Anna Stephanie, who I think is an interesting female lead because she's also the most passive character. I don't have a problem with that since she is the narrator, but it's a novel choice. Anyway, practically as soon as they get there, Mars is attacked by aliens from a planet called Kratos, who look exactly like humans. Why do they look human? The answer may surprise you. The Kratos robots are opposed by one of their own, the titular Layzner, piloted by a teenage boy named Eiji, who's a half Kratosian, half human, who was born on Kratos to a Kratos mom and Japanese astronaut dad. He's opposed to destroying his dad's home planet because he heard that's where Pop keeps his porn stash. So, Eiji joins what's left of the UN teen squad and their barely grown-up handler, Dr. Elizabeth Clabbery, as they try to contact Earth. Kratos blows up both military bases on Mars in order to trick the US and Russia into starting a war to get that sweet, sweet, mutually assured destruction they'd heard so much about. Eventually, 5 of the teens, Dr. Elizabeth and Eiji, are the only people left on Earth as Kratos sends a succession of decreasingly competent officers to kill Eiji and retrieve his robot, the Layzner, including way too much of a guy named Costello, who takes way too long to die. I mean, way too long. The funny thing is that Kratos' stated reason for wanting to do away with humanity is that humanity's military technology is becoming too advanced, and if they aren't wiped out, or at least held back forcibly, they'll eventually pick a fight with Kratos. But the leadership of Kratos seems to be an incredibly violent military-industrial complex that promotes the most deranged people imaginable, people who are too incompetent to take over a Whataburger, much less a planet. Using a criteria I can only assume is 100% nepotism-based. So, not that much different from Earth. Anyway, Kratos has a second super secret reason for wanting to crush humanity. It's a secret so terrifying and horrible and unknowable, their big bad boss, Admiral Gresko, will kill anyone who even hears whispers of its existence. This terrible, earth-shattering secret that is held close to the chest for nearly the entirety of the TV series is... Well, okay, I won't spoil it. But if you know basic biology, you know that in order to reproduce, 2 organisms would need to be very, very close genetically, if not identical. I'm just a little robot girl, and even I know that. Like, if a lady from an alien race that looks exactly like Earth humans marries a nice man from a Tokyo suburb, the reason they can produce 2 human-looking children is because they're basically the same type of organism, or close enough chromosomally in any case. So yeah. Kratos spends a lot of time and money teaching their kids to pilot giant robots, but apparently none teaching them Biology 101. Otherwise, I can't imagine why anyone would find their big secret the slightest bit shocking. Real-time countdowns are great for creating suspense, and also for padding out an episode if you're 30 seconds short. Anyways, after 15 and a half episodes, they escape Mars and make it to the moon, where we get more running from the bad guys for like 2 or 3 episodes, and finally they get to Edward Air Force Base on Earth for the final few episodes of season 1. Oh yeah, and they picked up a bunch of kids and Dr. Elizabeth's old boyfriend on the moon, but we never hear from any of them again once they land on Earth, so whatever. By the way, this is what the office of the President of the United States looked like in 1996. They finally get to enjoy Earth TV again, at least until they're rudely interrupted by Eiji, who, having forced Kratos' terrible secret out of Layzner's secret computer, because Layzner had a secret computer, gives the people of Earth some great advice. Which went over about as well as you'd expect. Where the first season spent what felt like a million years for the events of maybe a week or so, season 2 starts after a 3-year time jump. And guess what? Eiji was right. Earth's defenses were no match for Kratos, and now the entire planet is occupied by aliens. Oops! What's worse is Kratos has become overrun by Mad Max cosplayers, turning the streets of New York City into, Mad Max. Not the first Mad Max, the one with Tina Turner. Most of the UN teens are now freedom fighters, with kids and dogs and big shoulder pads, while 2 of them, Arthur and Rowan, decided that being traitors was where the action was at, though Rowan's the only one who's actually any good at being a traitor to all mankind. The occupation forces on Earth are led by the big bald baddie Gresco, and their main office is in New York City, because when they were conquering the planet, someone asked a guy, "Hey, so what's the capital city of Earth?" And the guy said, "New York City," because he was from New York, and all New Yorkers genuinely believe that. So, Gresco is running the show, but he seems completely checked out by this point. Even before he actually dies, he seems dead on the inside, so he's left his Fist of the North Star fail son LeCain in charge of operations. Gresco himself wasn't a great villain, but LeCain is one of those characters who's always like, gotta be evil today. And speaking of villains, Costello is still not dead, and he's even more Fist of the North Star coded than the other bad guys, which is quite a feat. Eiji's sister Julia is also back, and not dead, and people are in awe of her ability to wear the hell out of a white robe. While season 2 has much better pacing than the first season, it also suffers the bigger indignity, which is being cut from 52 episodes to only 38, and one of those is a clip show. This is because of problems the sponsor had, and not any fault of anyone involved with the show itself. Unfortunately, they were the ones left to clean up the mess by writing an extremely hasty and unsatisfying wrap-up to the show, where we get a lot of great value 2001 A Space Odyssey stuff. So the final battle between Eiji and LeCain gets yada-yada'd in favor of showing Anna and her friends once again flashing back to the first season, even though the entire previous episode was a clip show. The ending is weird and confusing, and I have some real problems with the pace of the show, as well as the genre shift between the 2 seasons, going from battles in space to post-apocalypse road warrior stuff on Earth. But the show does have a lot to recommend it. If you're the type of person who likes battles in space, road warrior stuff, kids or pets or neither. The animation is pretty good overall, sometimes a little janky, but better than a lot of cartoons from that era. The robot designs are very cool, and the theme songs are catchy too. I also like that there's a lot more nuance in this show regarding the behavior of people living under an occupation. It's the sort of thing you can only achieve when it's made by people who actually did live under an occupation, I guess. For instance, Arthur, while a dimwit, actually shows remorse over becoming a quisling. In a Western show, a sniveling traitor like this would be reviled by the heroes, but here, the freedom fighters are sympathetic, even remaining friends with him and showing understanding that everyone has to do what they can to survive. It's a subtlety that I really appreciate in a show that's supposed to be about space robots beating each other up. They also show that simple human pride and dignity has as much value as getting in the robot, like when Anna makes a symbolic gesture by saving a piece of art from the Metropolitan Museum of Art, while Kratos and head quisling Rowan torch the place. Then she encourages everyone to loot the museum, which is pretty cool. I feel like it could have been a great show if they'd known they were only going to have 38 episodes. Then they could have sped up the amount of time they spent on the first arc, had the time jump sooner, and given us a little more depth for the main characters and especially the villains, who, and I cannot emphasize this enough, are really annoying. So, that's our review of Blue Comet SPT Layzner, or Blue Meteor SPT Layzner if you're nasty. If you'd like to know more about this series, head on over to our good buddy Tim Eldred's blog post about it. He's got tons of info as well as links for watching it. A link to his website is in the description. If you've seen the show, let me know what you think in the comments. Am I right, or should I run just like Melos? Until next time, see you later!